Hi folks, welcome back to We the People. I'm Dave Gallus, your host, and I happen to be running for New Mexico State Senate in District 37. And one of my main topics is business in New Mexico. And we have a special guest, Marci Dickerson, who is an entrepreneur and a philanthropist. So Marci, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Honored to be here.
Well, now give us, we could spend a whole show on all the philanthropy that you do throughout Las Cruces and the area. So could you give us a little rundown on what you do?
So basically, I own both of the Game restaurants, so the Game 1 and the Game 2. I also own Dickerson's Catering, which is the largest catering company south of Albuquerque, or at least it was before COVID hit. We also have, I also founded a charity called Revolution 120. And Revolution 120 is basically dedicated to the people of Doña Ana County and to helping them take a step back from crisis. So we do a lot of different things. Our big COVID project has been basically feeding the community. So we do free meals, we do food boxes, that type of thing. And so we've been very, very active during the COVID time and very blessed that our donors have chosen to bestow upon us their faith and their money. So
that's quite impressive.
We're busy.
Well, I will say this. I got an inkling of how your culinary skills are at your different restaurants because I was at the Farm and Ranch Museum a few years ago and you had corked bats.
Oh, yes.
Which is the pecan encrusted green chili.
Yes, all made from local ingredients. So that's Franzoy's chili and Solopec pecans, and we do our best to keep the locals busy all the time.
That's one of my staples. So folks, you got to try it at one of the games. And the games are at University and...
We have one in University and one on North Rise in Sonoma Ranch.
Okay. So with this COVID-19 that hit, businesses are devastated. And, I wonder how our legislature is handling that. But even before that, we had issues with businesses in New Mexico before. And I know the small businesses now are devastated. So could you tell us, why are small businesses important to Doña Ana County, Las Cruces?
Well, I think one of the things that people forget is they see all the large, we have the Walmarts, we have the big box stores, we have these big national chains. And when you look at the dynamics of small business and what they mean to a smaller community like ours, or just New Mexico in general, is all our small businesses, especially in the Las Cruces area, are responsible for the majority of the jobs. We provide the majority of the employment in the community. We also provide, and what people forget is small businesses are the mechanism that allows all the charitable work to happen. The small businesses are the ones that are funding all of our community activities. When you look at, and here's charities that are doing an amazing job, you look at La Casa, you look at La Puñón, Jardín de los Niños, just to name a few. The majority of their donations that they function upon come from small businesses. So not only are we a huge employer, not only are we the mechanism that keeps the charities going, you also have then our gross receipts tax that our government functions on. Our government functions locally, functions on gross receipts tax, sales, statewide, gross receipts tax, and of course oil and gas. But the small businesses and the economic multiplier that they provide is so tremendous that it absolutely is shocking to see how quickly small business and the importance of small business was dismissed during COVID. Certainly before COVID, small business in the state of New Mexico with the legislature, with our city government, had to fight for attention. They had to fight to get the things they needed and were often dismissed. But with COVID, it really became shocking.
So you really see
how little our government values the contribution of small business to our communities. I mean, they across the board shut it down. The big box stores, the big national chains, they receive very, very little. That's why when we look at, Walmart sales and stock are up, Sam's sales and stocks are up, Home Depot, Lowe's. I mean, all these major stores, at least in our community, hit their budget for the entire year in June.
And they're taking everything from the small business.
Well, and small businesses didn't have a choice. She shut them down. She dismissed them. And, the small businesses don't have enough money saved to wait and to run forever. These are people that live paycheck to paycheck, payment to payment. And we forget the fact that most of our small businesses owe money to our local banks. So when you look at that as well, the economic multiplier, the economic effect of this small business shutdown in COVID and the dismissal, if you will, by our government of how important small businesses are I think it's something that we're going to see the effects of that for years to come.
Sure. You have any idea how many small businesses will not survive?
I don't. I've heard that over 200 restaurants in the state will not open. I think there's probably more than that because it's really hard to track, especially, immediately you have to see how many don't renew their licenses. But I know there's a lot. I know there's a lot of mom and pop shops, those smaller ones that are just, we can't open. I mean, even right now, the restaurants are allowed to open at 25% of indoor capacity. And there's many, many restaurants that are, even though they can open, it's not feasible for them to open because there's not enough money to be earned by those 4 tables or 6 tables to necessitate, and to merit being open and bringing their staff back. The unemployment numbers are just staggering because we stopped everything. And these small businesses are our largest employers.
Do you see our legislature, local, state, helping out the small businesses to get back on their feet?
To be honest with you, as of this moment, I've seen nothing. We've had, we'll talk about our city first. Our city council has been almost virtually absent. They have done 2 decent sized gives to 5 or 6 charities in town. But really for the small businesses, I think the total that they put forth to help small businesses between the 2 gives was, I believe, $250,000. Those were in restaurant vouchers. That's nothing. When you look at the fact that there was almost $4 million given, you gave $250,000, to, and I think a total of like 20 restaurants was probably affected. Wow. It's really nothing. Other than that, they certainly, they haven't been anywhere. They haven't been leading. They haven't been doing that. Yes, I am critical of them. Yes, I've been critical the whole time. Wow. I think one of the things that are missing in our government, our city as well as our state, is I think everybody's forgotten that they work for the people and their job is to care about the people and their job is to fight for the people and represent the people and be an advocate for the people. And whether that is, advocating out in the streets, helping them with food boxes, helping them with meals, helping them, solve their problems, helping them in so many numbers of ways. I mean, there's a million ways to help people. But I think something that all of our representatives, our senators, our representatives at the state level, certainly our city level elected officials, is they've run and hid. And we haven't seen them. We haven't seen them out doing things. I know they've had a couple mask giveaways, but a mask giveaway, I think the last one was like 2 weeks ago. At this point, really, we needed to have leadership coming out of coming into COVID. Like the minute we got shut down, we should have had leadership then, and certainly we need to see leadership now. Now we are starting to come out of COVID. Now none of us know. Remember, I own a catering company. The last time that catering company did a catering was March 10th. That's 20 employees that I've kept employed this whole time doing other projects at my own cost. We've made sure everybody's taken care of to keep those people employed because that's who I am and what I believe in. But as we come out of this, we need a lot more leadership. We need people that are willing to stand up to the governor and say, absolutely not. We're not going to let you ruin our state on our watch. And so far, what we've seen out of all of those incumbents is they finally got to go up to Santa Fe. They finally got to have their legislative session, and they just crumbled. I mean, she ran over them. I don't think anybody even objected. I know we had some small majority of the a small majority, which were Republican senators and House of Representatives that tried to fight, but everybody else just let her run amok. And I mean, right now she's one of the, I heard this fact this morning that she's one of the 6 most hated governors in the United States. I believe that. Yep. We're one of the last of the states to still be shut down. There's no hope. We have no guidance. Most people in my industry believe she's going to shut us back down after Labor Day in the restaurants, back and forth. And really, no one is even we're playing checkers, not chess here. They're just looking at the immediate. They're not looking at the long-term effects. And I'll say it, we need stronger leadership. We're advocating for it everywhere. We're supporting those candidates that promise us a change, that promise us stronger leadership, much like yourself. We need people to get up there and say, this is enough. We're going to stop the hemorrhaging. We're going to stop the train wreck. We're going to stop it right now. And really get us back to focused on, at this point, I'm not even sure we can move forward, but we certainly need to catch up. Right. We're so far behind where we were in February that, just try to get us even. to where we were. And that's going to require, some people focusing and standing up.
The whole thing is change legislature. They're the ones that make the laws. They're the ones that vote for the laws that we need.
They're the ones that let her do this.
So many times I go to city council and county commission meetings, and I've heard you there, and I spout off myself. And you'll have a room full of people that will voice their opinion as to what they want, and the city council and county commission vote exactly opposite. It's like, why? It's they're being paid or financed, I guess, for their re-elections, so that they're just the puppets.
Well, and especially we have so many of the far left progressives that have been elected because, and I believe that's not because they were the right people for the job. It was because, we're looking at elections that have 2,000 to 3,000 people participating in it. We're a city of at least 100,000. We've had poor voter turnout. We've had people not care, people not get out, people not vote, and because of that, the people who are elected to represent our city and to represent our people and to represent you and to represent me and what we need and what we want, those people don't exist. We have people that are there to represent special interests, that are there to represent the paychecks they get. We have those types of people who are supposedly representing us, and in turn, nothing is happening. We're not getting anything out of it. Our communities aren't growing. In fact, our community is hemorrhaging jobs. Right. So many jobs are leaving our community. Companies are coming to Las Cruces to look at our area and then leaving.
Sure.
Because
there's no incentive.
There's no incentive to stay. Minimum wage is too high.
Regulations
are unimaginable. They can't get permits. They can't get this. And I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about this in the election cycle next year when it's the city's turn. But even at the state, New Mexico is not known as a business-friendly state.
No.
Do you know?
I've read a book by Alan West talking about Texas. There's examples out there of success stories in states. Texas is one of them.
Absolutely.
Their governors would go and solicit California, New York, and bring businesses in with tax incentives, with deregulation, no business taxes. All these things can play a role in bringing business to New Mexico.
Yes, and I think that definitely needs to be a priority for all of the people that are running, to unseat the incumbents in November, is to go up there and say, okay, how do we bring jobs? Because everything starts with the jobs. If we don't have jobs, we don't have an economy. If we don't have businesses coming in that are bringing jobs and we're putting those people to work, and it can be all levels of jobs. Yes, it's nice to have those 80, 90,000, 100,000 a year jobs. Those are nice. But really, we need the jobs at minimum wage. We need the jobs at $15 an hour. We need those lower end jobs because we don't have a huge educated base here. We don't have a big talent pool to pull from, which is why a lot of those higher end companies don't come here, other than Los Alamos. But we need jobs for everybody. We need to keep everybody working, because when everyone works, then everyone can succeed. Then everything gets better generation after generation. But to have a state that basically is totally content with a welfare state. I mean, our state government, as it is right now, and our governor are advocating to create a welfare state where everyone is on unemployment, no one is working, everything is okay, and they find that better.
Well, it's a good thing we have oil and gas, or we wouldn't be able to fund it when we did. So
that's a big piece of it. Our governor started her term $4 billion in excess, $4 billion, and she blew it all before COVID.
Right, I hear you.
And so now, had she not blown it, she'd look pretty good right now.
Well,
but
she
now
blew it, and she raised taxes as well.
She raised taxes. She blew the $4 billion, and now I think when we started in July, the legislative session, I believe, don't quote me, but I believe we were about $2 to $2.5 billion in the hole. Wow. So that's $6.5 billion that she blew that quickly.
Well, I would put some in the bank. And when I get to Santa Fe, that will be discussed heavily. Well, we're going to take a short break here and come back, and we'll solve the rest of the problems in Las Cruces, Doñana County, and the state. So hold on, folks. We'll be right back with Marci Dickerson. See you then.
Horizon, granite is here. It's here! Horizon Granite is here. We'll come to you to customize your kitchen and bathroom with beautiful countertops and cabinets. Find out more at horizongranite.com. Call us at 575-650-3180.
Horizon Granite is here.
It's here.
Make yourself a beautiful home.
Hi, I'm Ray Bamberg with Here on Earth. I would like to invite you for a free hearing evaluation to our office. We've been here in southern New Mexico for 34 years helping people hear better.
They've stormed beaches and freed countries. They've raised our flag and our hope. They've been called leathernecks. They've been called devil dogs. But above all, they're called Marines.
Hi folks, welcome back to We the People. I'm Dave Gallus, your host, and I'm running for New Mexico State Senate in District 37, and we have as our special guest today, Marci Dickerson, entrepreneur and philanthropist. So, Marci, we were talking about the problems we have with the business community, and we're talking about how we fix that, but it seems like the biggest problem is that we have voter apathy. People aren't getting out to vote. So, and folks, listen, go onto the website, nmvote.org. You can find out about your registration. You can register. If you don't register, you're not going to vote. So Marci, how important is this election?
I feel that this election is probably one of the most important elections in recent history.
We hear that all the time, but for real.
Well, but for real this time.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking. Let me be clear. I am not talking about the presidential race. Right. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I am talking about locally here in our state. And I think the fundamental question is this: how many people are happy with what has happened in 2020?
I haven't found any.
What we've seen, which I think we do have a huge amount of voter apathy. We have a large amount of voters not turning out. And we've seen that in the numbers.
Yes.
We've seen that in the polling numbers and the votes that show out. Most of the time, our elected officials are decided by 7,000 people. 7,000 people total vote either way. And I think something that's really interesting and scary right now is that before COVID hit, before the governor utilized her power, her opinion, her agenda to affect our whole state, I don't think anybody really realized how powerful they were, how powerful the governor was, how powerful, what were the consequences of a really weak legislature. Yeah. We didn't realize that. They go to Santa Fe every year in January. Sometimes they stay till March. Sometimes they get done in February. They do some stuff. They play with some budgets. But I don't think anybody really before this understood exactly what type of power they have and how it can affect your life.
Until this COVID. And
then COVID happens.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, here we are glued to a TV, or an internet address from, the governor, the ruler, some of my friends call her President Snow, locked in our home, waiting to see what is she going to let us do or not do. And I really think that this year, that's one thing, is that I think people have really seen what the unchecked power of government is, and why we need to make sure that we have people that truly represent what is the best interest of the citizens and the small businesses in our community, not just the people that can write $100,000 checks to political PACs and to fund that. What the best use of for the citizens. Right. We need to have that representation in Santa Fe. We need to have those people standing there stopping this nightmare of a train and saying, no, we're not going to let you do this. We're not going to let you have unchecked power. Technically the Supreme Court is supposed to be an independent branch of our government. Now, I hate to say, we've seen this year that's not true.
No.
The Supreme Court is elected officials. They're playing the game just like everybody else. That is, that's what our system is. I don't think most of us even knew that the Supreme Court was elected because, again, apathy in general.
Right.
But now I think people are really waking up and they're realizing it. And if they aren't, please do so. Please pay attention, because This year, we're looking at a supermajority. We're a very few amount of seats away from the Democrats having a supermajority. Let me explain what that means and why that's scary. A supermajority is when the House and the Senate have enough Democratic votes that even if we got a Republican governor in, the governor has no power.
Override
Okay,
it.
that's from what I understand.
That's
I am not a
same
political
thing here.
scientist, so there you go.
Yep.
That's important. You know, the other thing that's important is our leadership is going to be so important in how it leads us out of this.
Right.
We're still in COVID. We will probably still have some point of shutdown in our state all the way up till January. I don't think, you know, if she stays, I don't think she's going to release us in January. I think it's a control element. It's a power element. She really likes that. I don't know her personally. I'll say that. Don't know her personally. But, you know, it's really scary because our state is sinking so quickly. And, you know, we're already, I mean, we've heard it. We're last in everything that matters.
Right.
We're toward the last in education. I heard this the other day and I thought it was very interesting. In places for millennials to relocate. Now let's remember, millennials are the ones working right now. They're the ones that are creating the tax base. They're the ones that are funding Social Security or retirements and everything. In states, places for most desirable places for millennials to relocate, we are 51st.
Last
Technically,
again.
we have 50 states plus Washington, D.C.
Right.
We are 51st.
Last again.
You know, the only thing our state is number one in right now is the suicide rate since
Suicide,
COVID.
right.
We've actually had more, I believe, more people commit suicide, or almost as many as have died from what I'm going to call COVID. Even though right now we know that the CDC a couple days ago said, oh, it's not 153,000. We're bad. It's 9,000.
Well, I just heard that only 6% of the COVID deaths were actually attributed to COVID only, no underlying symptoms.
That is
So
true.
we haven't been told the truth.
No, we haven't. This has
And
been.
this governor has just taken it upon herself to shut this whole state down.
She was, I mean, really, she's running from a job. You know, she was interviewing and running for a job. First it was vice president, and then,
Right.
you know, we believe now that it is the Cabinet Secretary of Health and Human Services. I apologize, I don't know the actual title. I don't
No,
get that
I'm
involved
not
in it.
surprised.
Like I say, I really try to concentrate my efforts in what I do here locally because
Sure.
to me, if we can take care of our own communities and everyone around the state can take care of their own communities, then our entire state is going to benefit from
Sure,
that.
sure.
And that's what's so important with the people in our community, the people watching this, is go look at, you know, and you know, we're on Facebook, so we have a huge audience, but
Sure.
look in your community. Look and see. Look up some voting records that matter to you. Look and see what these people have been doing. Because I know this, you know, in Las Cruces, we definitely, the only way forward is a change.
Sure.
And we need some new people. We need some people that are willing to stand up. And of course, to get that, we have to have those voters show up and send a message to Santa Fe, send a message to our cities that, you know what, we want to change. We're not happy. We don't like what you did. And the
Right.
best way to stop the train that is happening, this disaster, is to show up in November and vote that change in and send a message that, you know what, we're not going to play this game anymore.
You know, I tell my folks when I knock on doors and meet them, I say, I'm willing to work for you for nothing. I'll get reimbursed to go to Santa Fe and come back. That's about it. So the easiest thing for these people to do is to register and vote.
Absolutely.
I mean,
It
the only way,
matters.
like you say, the only way it's going to change is if you change the legislatures. You put the right people in office, the right
Mm-hmm.
people with conservative Christian values to
and the
understand.
strength to stand up.
Oh, yeah, you have to have the guts to stand up. I know you have. I've heard you many times speaking out against
It-
city council and county commission.
And I'll say a phrase that we're going to see a whole lot here in the upcoming, you know, in the upcoming weeks, and that is elections have consequences.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what? During COVID, we have felt the consequences of past elections. We have felt the consequences of voter apathy, of people thinking that it doesn't really matter.
Huh.
And that pain that you feel in your pocketbook, in your soul, in your businesses, watching people not have jobs, watching people struggle
Sure.
to make the payments, to feed their children, to take care of their children, especially with the schools. That pain, that is the consequence of elections, not done well.
Absolutely.
And we certainly, you know, elections have consequences, and we've got to get people out there to vote, and we've got to get people to show what their opinion is and that they're not going to be ignored anymore.
Sure. A legislature works for the people.
When it's done correctly.
Well, it doesn't-
Sometimes the people need to remind current legislatures of that.
Absolutely, they do it at the voting booth. And I would
Absolutely.
say, if you want your vote to count and you want it to count correctly, make sure that you take your ballot or you go to the voting location and vote physically, because there's a lot of corruption that can happen when you have a mail-in ballot. Every time it touches a pair of hands, and I worked for the post office for a while, you don't have angels working at the post office. Anything can happen.
No,
So-
it's really easy to get lost, thrown away, and not have your
Yeah.
vote count. So if you want your vote count, show up. My theory is if you can go to Walmart in person, you can vote in person. Let's show up, vote, make your vote count, and
I've been a
certainly
judge
send
of
a
election
message.
twice. I've been a presiding judge twice. The thing is, you can even pull up, if you can drive there, you can have your vote taken care of. They'll have people come out, they'll get your ballot, get your information, go back in, get your ballot, come out, make out your ballot. It's in a sealed envelope, and it goes in the machine. So there's no excuse. We have voting convenience centers. We have early voting. People, you need to get out the vote. We're willing to work for you, but you have to do the initial and get us elected.
Yeah,
So-
because it's time for a change, and we only have one day to exercise, our voice and our desire for change, and the fact that we demand change. And that's election day. That is the only thing we do. We can all stand here and scream and yell and make Facebook videos
Well-
all we want. But if it doesn't happen on election day, then you know what? No one's listening.
No complaints. I mean, if you're going to complain over a beer or a cup of coffee and you haven't voted, I don't want to hear it. So, we have to get the people out to vote. We have to change the legislature. We have to better the business community, because the business community employs all the employees. Just a one quick note about how has the minimum wage hurt Las Cruces?
The minimum, I would say Las Cruces as well as the state. Now, as you know, Las Cruces is higher than the state. And the biggest thing is when businesses look at coming into a community, investing into a community, bringing new jobs, new capital development, new money, selling new houses, bringing employees, bringing managers, all of that good stuff. When they look at bringing it into a community, the first thing they look at is what is it going to cost our company? By our minimum wage at one point being $2.50 to $3 more than the state, and certainly $3 more than Texas, which is 40 minutes away.
Right.
Most of the companies, and we're going to hear a lot about this in the future too, but most of the companies that have looked at Las Cruces for a home base, for a place for their factories, for a place for that, they have seen the fact that our minimum wage is high, our minimum wage is volatile, which means our city council is always voting to increase minimum
Right.
wage. To do that, they also look to the south, to our neighbors, and they're like, oh wait, it's Texas. Texas has got better regulations, a better tax structure.
Right.
Minimum wage is much cheaper. They don't have the same regulations. They don't have all that. So
Right.
minimum wage certainly is going to be
That's
a
a
hot
biggie.
topic next year, I know.
Okay.
But I think it's something this year with the state that we really need to look at.
Well, Marci,
what's most
it's-
important?
We need to do another show, or a couple more shows. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
It's
for
been a
having me.
pleasure. Thanks for the insights. Marci Dickerson, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and we'll see you next week on We the People. Dave Gallus saying goodbye.